Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of on Cougs. Another Big 12 tournament episode, very exciting. BYU yesterday with a big win against Iowa State in the quarterfinals, and today they play in the semifinals against the number one team in the conference and also very likely a number one team in the NCAA tournament when that comes around, the Houston Cougars. So yeah, Cougars on Cougars battle. Going to be real exciting. Yeah. Let's dive right into it. First of all, taking a look around BYU sports, things that have been happening. First, a little bit of unfortunate news for BYU women's basketball. Kaylee Woolston has entered the transfer portal. Now, she still is on her mission, still has some time. I don't know, at least the way I see this move right now, of course, I don't know exactly what's happening. This might just be preliminary, just kind of assessing her options. I have heard... It said that if Lee Kamard is hired for the head coaching job, then they might be able to retain her due to that relationship she already has with a lot of the staff at BYU that would probably stick around should Lee himself get that job. So she's not gone for good, but potentially is leaving, at least just considering it at this point. And this is definitely something that, you always deal with anytime that, you go through a coaching change. And these is two highly ranked recruits that now, formerly highly ranked recruits, successful players at BYU, that have done this entering the transfer portal. Amari Whiting last week, I believe, and then, this week it is Kaylee Woolston. And so, still too early to tell, but I'll keep you updated on that. And as well, BYU baseball has started another series, their first Big 12 series of the year, and they are playing against UCF. Yesterday, they lost the first game of the series by one, came down to the wire. Tough loss, but ultimately, BYU still on a very good path. They still got two more games left in the series. I see it being very likely they take at least one of them, and possibly both. I won't rule that out for sure. All right, now going over yesterday's game, an amazing performance by BYU. Both teams were just shooting the three so well, breaking a Big 12 tournament in that, and then BYU broke a team record with a league record for most three-pointers by a team in a Big 12 tournament game with 18, as they end up winning this one, 96-92. This game was very exciting, very much a game of runs. Early on, BYU took a 10-point lead. Iowa State took back momentum before going into halftime, and ultimately they managed to push their lead, I believe, at the most up to 10. BYU fights back, is close, back and forth. Till the end, ultimately some critical plays at the end. Richie Saunders came up so clutch in this game. He hit some late free throws as well as he hit a three-pointer with just about 48 seconds to go to give the Cougars a 4-point lead. And then he blocked a shot on the next possession, a three-point shot that would have made it a 1-point game on the other end. So Richie Saunders, definitely the hero in this one. And you can just also see it very easily in his stat line as he went for 23 points in this one. Very impressive performance by him. Some other notable performances, Keba Keita, almost with a double-double. He had 10 rebounds and 9 points. Also, Trevin Nell had a really good game, going 4 of 4 from 3, getting 14 points. And then, turns out my bold prediction came true. It happened. Let's go. As Mihailo Boskovic and Fusini Torre both scored in double digits, both coming off the bench. Torre with 15 points, Boskovic with 10. And so, some really good stuff there. And really great win. Huge resume builder in my opinion, at this point. They shouldn't slip any further than a 6 seed at this point. At this point, I would honestly put them at the 5 seed line. Now, of course, you don't always know what's going to happen with the whole Sunday play rule thing, because I don't know, man. It could have a big impact. It could have, honestly, zero impact. It kind of just depends. Like, for example, if BYU was slotted into a spot that was already a Thursday, Saturday area that led into an Elite 8 on a, what do you call that? That would lead into eventually an Elite 8 matchup on a Saturday. In that case, they wouldn't have to be moved back a seed line at all. But of course, we will have to see. In today's game against Houston, huge game. Like I said before, Houston, a team that is probably going to be a 1 seed themselves in the tournament. So a win here would just be straight up huge for the Cougs. The BYU Cougars, that is, of course. And yeah, there's a lot to be worried about when you're playing against Houston. Houston is the only team in the Big 12 that shoots a higher percentage from 3 than BYU. And they are led in that by LJ Cryer, Milos Uzan, and Emmanuel Sharp. Those are their 3 best players who score all average double digits. So they're really good. Houston is known for playing with a very slow tempo. This is a team that wants to keep the score somewhat low. Play some really good defense. Their offensive rebounding is really good. They force a lot of turnovers and really good at defensive efficiency on field goals. So this is a team that is just scary all the way across the board. And I feel like we saw this when BYU played Houston earlier this season in a 31-point loss. Ultimately, BYU got beat in practically every facet of that game. So it's definitely going to be a tricky one. Now, a little bit of hope. Yesterday, they played against Colorado, and this was a game that, honestly, Colorado kind of hung around for a little bit, ultimately losing by 9 in the end. Also, a little bit of concern for the Red Cougars is that Jawan Roberts is potentially out of this game. He was their star center, and so that right there is a tough blow for them. And so ultimately, all things considered, still very much an uphill battle for BYU, but a battle I think they can be successful. And this team is playing a lot better than they were earlier this season when they took on the Houston Cougars. So to preview this thing, first of all, my deciding factors for this game, number 1, I think it's just going to be 3-point efficiency on both sides of the floor, both defending the 3 and shooting the 3, because these are 2 of the top 3-point shooting teams in the conference. And so, in my opinion, if BYU wants to win this game, they need to be hitting a lot of threes, which has been the recipe to success for these last 9 games in this winning streak. And then they need to make sure they're stopping Houston on the other side, because that's an area where Houston can really dominate this game. And then my second deciding factor for this game is just overall not to let Houston get too comfortable in this thing. And what I mean by that is just push the pace. Make them play faster than they're used to. Speed up the game, because the truth is that is the way that BYU has played best this season. We've seen BYU do really well in high-scoring games, like this last game against Iowa State, the game against Arizona, the previous game against Iowa State. When the offense is going, when it's back and forth, really quick, running up and down the floor, that is where BYU excels. So I think control the pace and win the 3-point battle. And I think if they do those 2 things, they should come out with a win on this one. One other factor I want to give before I get into my bold prediction and overall prediction is just the fact of it's kind of be interesting to see how each team approaches this game. Specifically injury status wise. If someone gets hurt, will they come back in? In my opinion, we're not going to see a whole lot of that happening in the case of injuries. Just because both teams at this point are pretty close to locked in on their NCAA tournament placement. And so there's a chance they might not push their stars too hard if there's too much health risk in this thing. I mean, at the end of the day, conference tournament's important, but the NCAA tournament is really what everyone cares about. In the end, I still expect a very hard-fought game. I'm just saying, if we see injuries, I wouldn't expect anyone to return to the game off an injury today. Now, my bold prediction for this game is I think that BYU will have a lead at some point in the second half that'll be larger than 1 score. That'll be at least 2 scores. I think that this game's going to go back and forth a little bit. I think BYU will gain an advantage at some point. Ultimately, my overall prediction for this game is the final score is something around 75 for Houston to 70 for BYU. Ultimately, I think it's just going to be a little too hard. But I think it's one of the top teams in the conference, even with Juwan Howard Jerron Roberts being held out for, like I talked before, just kind of saving him for the NCAA tournament. I believe that Cougars can give a good battle in this one. They can potentially even win it. But either way, you don't have a whole lot to lose. With a win, you probably lock in at least a 5 seed, maybe even get up to a 4 seed type level. And with a loss, you probably stick around a 5 or a 6 seed. So not a whole lot to lose, a whole lot to win. Excited to see how it goes. Let's go Cougs.